Tiger talks, tiger talks, tiger talks, tiger talks. If a tiger could talk, what would a tiger say? All right, you're joining us live for Tiger Talks with Rodney Lawson. I'm Mike. This is Rodney, and we got Andrew on the control board. Say hi, Andrew.
Andrew.
Howdy.
Howdy. All right. So Andrew was talking to us about the World Series. We'll get to that. We'll talk about sports. But today I want to talk about. Imagine you've built one of the best roofing companies that ever existed, best roofing companies on the planet. And do you think that roofing company would have been built like on loud, aggressive, obnoxious marketing? Or do you think that roofing company would have been built on silent, quiet, disciplined processes oriented? The backside would be process oriented and quiet and I'm not sure how I'm going to phrase this question, but would it be loud or would it be quiet? If you built the best roofing company ever, would it be loud or would it be quiet? And that's what we're going to get into today, loud and quiet. Because some people build a successful life, a successful business, a successful family, a successful marriage, a successful relationship with God quietly.
Yep.
And some people build it very loudly.
Yep.
Is there a difference? Is one better than the other?
I think it depends on your personality, and it's funny because that's exactly. I was kind of worried because I was like, I thought we were going in a different direction, but I think you can do both. And actually, that's without even me sending that, that's kind of what I wanted to kind of segue into, because you can have both, and I think God gives people different personalities to use, and how do you use that personality to fit what you're doing? And so, I don't know if that answers your question.
So you think it's based on the
I think
personality?
it'd be a combination based on each person's personality.
Right.
Like I can be a very type A type person, and I had a friend of mine that just commented on one of the lives I've already done this morning for the Friday Night Football, and she said, "You're a live wire," and I said, "No, that would be Susie, the waitress." And I get what she's saying, because yes, I can be live wire, but how do you take that and fit it into maybe some of the lessons that I was going to talk about today, starting with one of your emails? And I think it would be really good to do that if that's okay, unless you were going.
Yeah, let's go ahead and dive into it. I really want to get down to the bottom of this. Do you have to be loud and obnoxious in order to build something successful?
I think that can be I think that is an awesome question to bring into, because I was actually thinking about that when I was driving to my first one this morning. Because, and to answer that question, I'm going to give my answer real quick as we move into these. We're going to talk about two people and a team today.
Okay, let's do it.
The first person is Ronald Reed. Is that how you would say it?
Yeah.
And then the second person is Joseph, the father of Jesus, the earthly father of Jesus. And then the third thing would be my hometown, the Terrell Tigers. So Ronald Reed, but before we get into that, I just want to go back to because it's wild that, and I actually believe things are designed and implemented by God in a lot of ways. And so I think this is a God thing. I was thinking about it because there are people that are loud,
sure,
and very out there.
Right.
I think we have a dear friend, and I don't think this is a negative. I think this is very positive. Who runs his own podcast, Keeping It Rio. So if you ever are looking up keep a podcast, if you're a podcast type person, watch our good friend Chuck Allen, Keeping It Rio.
Yeah, I think
he's a very outgoing.
This is the obligatory Chuck Allen reference for every Tiger Talks podcast.
Nah.
We got to give a shout out to the great Chuck Allen, Rio Blanco Roofing down in San Antonio, who runs the podcast called Keeping It Real.
Yeah, and I think he's can be a very loud person and very outgoing person, much like myself and much like my son Reese. And so how do you fit that and still do what we're going to talk about today, and be humble, be obedient, and be of service and trusting? because I think it's a very important part of a person's life. And I think it's a very important thing. And it got me to thinking. And so what I did is you sent that email out. I read it earlier this week about Ronald Reed. Here is a janitor. You caught it as a janitor. And I actually went back and looked up this guy. He's on Wikipedia. And actually, I don't know how you found out or what drew you to him. And that was my question to you in an email back to you is, hey, what drew you to this guy? So what drew you to Ronald Reed before we get into him?
Well, Ronald Reed, so he was brought to my attention by one of my mentors. And I was fascinated by the story of Ronald Reed because I won't tell the story. I'm going to let you tell the story because you're going to make some points on it. But I was fascinated by it. And I'll just say this one thing. He was not loud and obnoxious.
No.
He did not draw attention to himself. He was not seeking glory. He didn't have a podcast like we do.
Yep.
He was quiet, and he built a successful life. So
built a very successful life.
I'll let you tell the story.
So Ronald Reed was born in 1921. He lived in Vermont, and he only left Vermont, the Vermont area once. I'm sorry. He went off to World War II. But before that, Ronald Reed was the first one in his family to graduate from high school. And that in of itself, back then in the 30s and would have been the late 30s, would have been an accomplishment, especially during the time of the Great Depression. And even more impressive to it was that he walked to school, to and from school 4 miles. Now, that may be where we got the phrase, walking uphill and back uphill, that our parents and grandparents used to always tell us. And then us kids would always, well, was that in snow as well? And
yeah.
So, I mean, and that's kind of a little humor on the side. Maybe it didn't land well, but he did. He walked 4 miles to and from school to be the first one in his family to graduate. That's a huge accomplishment. Right. Then he went off to war, served in the war, but then he came right back to Vermont. And he became a gas attendant. Okay. He became a mechanic and a gas attendant. And this is not where the story ends because your email was about totally something he did once he retired. So all along, this guy is making decisions and buying stock on the side. When he'd get a little extra money, he'd invested in the stock market.
That's right.
And what did he invest in?
Just blue chip stuff. He wasn't taking any wild runners, but he was investing in good, solid companies.
So exactly, he started buying companies that produce dividends, and he would let those dividends reinvest. And so what Ronald, I almost want to say Ronald Reagan, what Ronald Reed did is his brother came to work for him, and they worked at this gas station. Now, for those of you that are younger than 50, you won't understand this, but they worked at a gas station where he was an attendant and a mechanic. Now, if you were an attendant at the gas station, that meant when the little 58 Chevy convertible drove up or the Studebakers drove up, you went out there, you checked all 4 tires, you checked the oil, you washed the windshields. You basically did a self-clean of the car while also putting gas in the car.
Right.
And so you don't see that today. You're driving up to QT, you're going to put the handle on the gas and the gas deal, and then you're going to walk into the store and probably buy something and spend money there. And that's what they're wanting you to do. Same thing at Buc-ee's or whatever. So you don't have the full-service gas stations like you had back then. And so he did that, and his brother did that. They saved enough money. They bought it off the owner and owned the gas station. And then they sold it, and once they sold it, they retired. He stayed retired for about a year, and then he went where?
That's right.
Where did he go after that?
Oh, he went to work at the school.
No, he went to J.C. Penney's.
Oh, that's right, J.C. Penney.
And what was he? This is a man, by this time, he's probably got, obviously, if he had the gas station and sold it, he's probably got a good little nest egg at this point. Could travel, could do whatever. He stayed retired for 1 year. And then what did he do?
Yeah.
He went back and became a part-time janitor. So we see discipline throughout his life Then we see humility in his life, and he's
Right, because he
making
became
these
a janitor.
decisions. Yeah,
He went from being a business owner to being a janitor.
yeah. I mean, that's not the highest rung on the ladder.
Right.
I mean, you know, I mean, but this I've heard story after story of the janitor.
Mad respects to the janitors, though.
Exactly. I've heard story after story of people that were janitors, people that were drivers for wealthy people that left a huge amount of money at the end of their life.
Right.
And Mr. Reed left over $8 million when he died.
$8 million.
He was 92 years old. He lived a godly, I assume godly, but he lived a well thought life, a well planned out life. He was pretty healthy. I think he died of natural causes. And when he left 8.9 million. That is not chump change.
Yeah. I mean, that's back when $8 million was $8 million.
Exactly. He died 11 years ago, 2014. Lived in 1991. And he was about to turn 93, and he died in 2014 just by making decisions to invest money in the stock market and let it reinvest itself. And then when he left, he left a legacy behind.
Yeah, what I thought was so fascinating is that most people didn't even know. They had no clue that he had that much money.
He went on assuming about life, never really let on. And you know, there's a book out called The Millionaire Next Door. He was truly the millionaire next door.
So let me ask you this question.
Yes.
$8 million is super successful. You know, it's probably like $20 million today.
Yes.
You know, if you had $20 million in the bank, that would be great. Do you think if a roofing company owner, just your average roofing company owner, if they had been that successful, you know, after they've paid the bills, paid the suppliers, paid their crews, paid their commissions, paid their overhead, and they were sitting there, let's translate it to today's money, with $20 million in the bank, do you think most roofing contractors, roofing company owners would be quiet about it?
No.
No?
I think, I don't know. I think you've got two types of owners, and I think you've got, just like you got all walks of life and people, I think some would be very showboaty about it, would probably go buy big toys and all. This guy, his life spoke a discipline. And I think what is so fascinating and what draws, I think, me and maybe even yourself to him is what he did just by making small decisions every day that led to a bigger decision at the end of his life and led to being able to bless charities, because he did give away a lot to the charities, and probably being able to bless generations below him, including I didn't read to where if he had any kids or anything, but if he did, blessing down to his grandkids or maybe even great-grandkids. We don't know that story. That story may still be unfolding. But I think that he did contrast to a guy, I don't know if I mentioned this on a previous podcast, but my pastor about a year ago was talking in his sermon and told us about a man that won the Powerball at that time in the early 2000s. That was the largest Powerball at that time. He won $115 million.
Oh.
And he gave $10 million to the church right off the bat, which is a great thing. There's a generous giver and a great thing. But the rest of his life was a horrific pattern of bad decisions. He became a person that started drinking a lot, would go to clubs that he probably shouldn't have been in, bring in suitcases of money. He would get robbed. His daughter committed suicide. Ooh. His granddaughter was having a party, had a boyfriend over, and for 3 days they couldn't find the boyfriend. Come to find out, they had been the party had been full of drugs and alcohol, and the kid that they couldn't find was rolled up into a carpet for weeks. And I mean, this is you can go look this up. It's I think in the state of West Virginia. I don't know if it's kosher for me to tell the name, but it was in the early 2000s, won a Powerball. And the story, him and his wife, the husband and the wife, ended up divorcing. And then it became a legal battle, and attorneys got involved. And attorneys tried to steer the wife into these pyramids and Ponzi schemes. And I think she's still alive, and everybody else has died.
Oh my gosh!
And it's all because the person and 2-3 years in, the husband regretted even buying the ticket, and it just became a huge deal that I still think is ongoing today. And it's about 18, 20 years later. And it's so, again, it's small decisions that this guy made that led to a trusting, a discipline, and just making smart decisions and looking, like you said in the email, he just bought things that people buy on a normal day back in that time period and just kept reinvesting and buying them and blue chips. And I'll say the same thing. I got into the stock market about 3 years ago. And at first I was trying to treat it like Las Vegas, which is not a good thing. And here in the last year or so, I put my daughter and son, I put an account in for them. My son left and went out on his own to his own house in February, and I stopped contributing, but I put them in a stock, put them both in the same stock, and both of them are up over 80% for the value.
Wow, that's great.
So the account has almost doubled of what I put in it just for them. And I noticed that about 8 to 10 months ago and started investing in myself. And my account is up about 20 or 30% as well. I still do a little bit of wildcatting, gaming, treating it like a gambling type part, but not as much as I do in the straightforward investing in a rock solid company that's going to be around forever and ever. And I don't mind saying we've been currently, for about the last year and a half, we've had an account in Google. Now, I don't recommend stocks. I'm not a stock guru. I'm not a stock expert.
Is this,
and I don't have
is this
a
investment advice, Rodney?
I don't have a license, so you invest at your own risk.
Right.
But I have invested in Google.
But you still take some wild hairs.
Yeah. Well, what I did,
I mean, as long as we don't find you rolled up in a carpet somewhere.
No, I don't want to be that. But also, I did an aggressive mutual fund that's earning 20% in the past year, and decided to start doing that. So that's helped. But I think it's discipline. And I think it segues into the next subject I wanted to talk about, which is Joseph.
Yeah, let's hit Joseph here in a second. Let me ask you this question,
Sure.
though. A lot of roofing company owners, what happens is that they have a lot of success really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like the environment is just set up right for them. They start their company, they get a massive hailstorm, or they're in the middle of a hurricane,
I'm guilty.
and boom, there they go. They just blow up, and everything, the money gets so fast, so much money coming in. They get so loud, they get so loose with their finances. I heard an investment guy say once, if you ever win $1 million, you better figure out how to be a millionaire before you no longer have that million.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing happens with roofing company owners. They blow up, they get loud, they get obnoxious, and then a year or two later, where is it?
I can't find them.
Can't find them, can't
Nope.
find their money.
Mm-hmm.
The suppliers can't even find them to collect the bills.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so do you have to be loud and obnoxious in order to build a successful company?
No, I think you can be quiet and unassuming. I've got friends that are not even on Facebook that do extremely well. And I'm like, how? But they do. And I think, unfortunately, we are living in an age where I think we have to incorporate social media into our lives. And I think we have to do that in a variety of ways. But I also think you can be very unassuming. I know a lot of company owners that are unassuming are just as successful, as you said, and probably do better long term than the guy that's obnoxious and loud. And now, how do you take but I also think you can take type A personalities that that are drawn to attention and like the attention, And if they have the right mindset and still approach it with a humble attitude, you can still be useful and you can still be successful in that way. But if you're flashy and trying to buy the toys or trying to show everybody, show off this or show off that, it turns me off. And I think it would turn a lot of people off. And, I've been reluctant with this to come on board with the podcast because it's not, I do love doing those live moments like at a cafe and stuff. And I like this. I prepared for it over this week. And I think it's better when we are scripted and not scripted, but prepared to what I want to talk about versus when we're not prepared. Because I think I try to be more genuine and try to be more catching the moment. Like I absolutely thrive with that stuff with like Susie at Down Home, or like a couple of weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when we finished up the roof at Scurry Rosser and I did a live moment with the junior high football team. Those are things I just love. And I do love this. I do love the podcast part because it gives me a chance to share some ideals or some values that I believe in. And I think that that's where you can be successful, even if you are kind of somewhat loud.
Sure.
And,
I have clients who are loud.
mm-hmm.
I don't know. Some people may call them obnoxious, but they are loud. They're out there. And, when I talk to them, one of the things that they say is that they have to present a certain image, a certain lifestyle. They have to present a certain level of success that's maybe a little flashy, a little glitzy, because the young guys who are getting into this business, the guys that have the energy, the guys that have the legs to get up on the roofs, the guys that, are hungry and they want to do something, they're looking at the Lambos, they're looking at the vacations, they're looking at the cruises, they're looking at the gold watches, they're looking at those things, and they want some of that.
Yeah.
So, even though the business owners run a very disciplined life, they run a disciplined business, they also show that so that it attracts the young guys. What are your thoughts on that?
I disagree with it.
Wow. Why?
Because I think if you are showing the flashiness, and I think if you are, I had a guy tell me about 6-7 years ago, I pulled up to Cedar Hill and it's just a normal truck, and he gets out. I ended up doing his roof, and he goes, "Wow." He goes, "I kind of expected a lifted truck." And I said, I understand, but it's just not who I am. And this is no disrespect to lifted people with lifted trucks. My son has one.
The beautiful one.
I think
the handsome man.
Yeah,
Reese Lawson.
But I think if
shout out, Reese, I got your back.
I know. I love you. I love that boy, and he is a very good looking boy. But my point is, the lifted truck is it's there's nothing wrong with the lifted truck if it's not your centerpiece. I think where I come back to it, and I'll use this as a godly thing, if it's your focus and if it's your main thing, and if it's the carrot that you're trying to dangle in front of the people, it's going to be a short-term deal. It won't be long-term. Okay. Because if you're trying to dangle the vacations, and if you're trying to dangle the big bad truck or this toy or that toy, those toys go away, and those toys do not give you lasting happiness.
Well, that's a very good response, Rodney. Which leads us to Joseph. Okay,
yeah.
Let's talk about the humility angle. I know you got things you want to say, but take us there. Let's go.
So, well, with Joseph, and I need to do a disclaimer on this because a few years ago we went to a church in Rockwall. It was actually when my parents were still alive, and we went to a church in Rockwall to where they were doing a Christmas Eve service, and I called Mom and Dad and said, "Hey, Mom and Dad, let's meet over at this church. They're having an afternoon Christmas Eve service. We can do that. Then we can go back to the house and do Christmas Eve and all." And so we were all gung-ho, and I was really gung-ho because it's a big church right there on I-30. It's a great church, great pastors. And we get there, and the lead pastor at that time, who was quite popular, was talking about Joseph. And I thought, okay, this is kind of weird. This is Joseph.
Is this like Old Testament Joseph or
no? This is Jesus's earthly father.
Okay.
And I'm sitting here going, this is Christmas Eve. We need to be talking about Jesus, Mary. We need to be talking about the angels. We need to be talking about the three wise men. We don't need to be talking about Joseph. And I was kind of a little frustrated, a little upset because my mom and dad had not been to one, and I was like I was real gung-ho about all this, and they're talking about Joseph. And then I picked up this book this week, and it's about the consecration of Joseph, and I was like, uh-oh. And so I started reading it, and lo and behold, they lay out some traits of Joseph that just kind of hit me like a 2x4.
All right, let's go over them.
The first one, obviously, when Mary got pregnant, you know, the way we would read that today, I'd be like, hey, nice knowing you. See you later. Good luck with all that. And
I mean, especially if you know you're not the one sleeping with her.
I'm telling you. And Joseph was about ready to divorce her, and he was going to do it quietly to try. And I think that's cool because he was going to try to maintain the dignity for both him and Mary. And then he fell asleep one night, had a dream, and God said, look, here's what's going on. I need you to be the man and step up and stay with her. You love her, you stay with her. And Joseph did it.
Yeah.
Joseph, so the first lesson there, this is the first day, is trusting. I've done 3 days. It's a 33-day daily walk to traits of Joseph. And the first trait was trusting God in a challenging and difficult situation. Because I don't care how deep you are faithfully, you are betrothed to a woman, and like you said, there have been no relations. You're going to have some huge questions if she comes to you and tells you, hey, I'm with child, and we're going to have a baby. And one, these most likely in medieval, or in not in medieval, but in ancient times, in biblical times, these people were teenagers. And so they were very young, and I'm sure he's trying to prepare himself for the role of husband. And now not only does he have to prepare himself for husband, he has to prepare himself to be a father. Mm-hmm. And God's asking him to trust God. And I'm sure he's like everybody else, like, wait a minute, God, I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
And so he trusts God on this, and he goes ahead and takes her as his wife, and they have a baby. And then there's 2 other lessons in this. When they go, I don't know if the baby was, how old the baby, or no, it was on his way. As they became married, before she had the baby, they had to go and declare themselves citizens back in their hometown, which was Bethlehem, which is where we get the birth of Jesus Christ. And during that journey, he looks after Mary. They get to Bethlehem. There's no room at the inn, as we know the story, and he ends up in a stable. But at the same time, the second trait is his humility of serving others and making sure Mary is as comfortable as possible. And then the third trait that we learned on the third day, and like I said, I'm only 3 days into this, is Joseph gets told, this is a carpenter who I'm sure had work going on in his hometown of Nazareth, gets told that, hey, look, this Herod guy is a wicked king, and he's trying to stamp out any and all rebellions. And if you know kings during that time, we know Julius Caesar got assassinated by 15 men. Mm-hmm. You can read history of that. And kings were very suspicious of people and wanting to hang on to their throne. And Herod, by all walks of life, whether you look in the Bible or whether you look at history, Herod was a wicked man. He wanted to stamp out any and all possibilities. In fact, they had all 2-year-olds killed during that time.
Yeah.
2 and under.
I remember reading that.
Yeah, they had all 2-year-olds killed during that time. God comes to Joseph again, and he says, hey, look, I need you to go to Egypt, because out of Egypt I'm going to bring my son. But he said, I need you to go to Egypt, and you're going to stay there until Herod's dead. He didn't even question it. He obediently and willfully did what he did. Now go back to those, like you said, the quiet and unassuming owner versus a loud manager.
Okay, let's go.
Whatever traits you are, what if we took on serving others, and what if we took on being completely obedient, and what if we took on the trust and having trust? We want our customers to trust us. I hammer that into my salesmen. I'm sure you hammer that into your consultants. We want everybody to trust us, but do we have that same trust? Do we have that same humility? And then do we have that same obedience?
So let me just ask you, do you think most roofing company owners have that?
I don't know. And I would tell you that I'm exhibit A, that I've had it at times, and I've had it at times I've not had it.
Yeah, that second trait you talked about, Joseph, serving others,
Yes.
even to his own hurt, making sure that Mary is taken care of. You know, that is an opportunity that represents itself over and over and over again when you own a roofing company.
Yes.
Because you have two choices. You can serve yourself, serve your profit, serve your bottom line, serve your comfort, serve your ego, serve your authority, serve your, your own best interest, or you can serve them.
Exactly.
And when you serve them, that means you put yourself to the side.
Yep.
You don't eat until they eat. You don't run a lead until they run a lead. You don't cash a check until they can cash a check. I mean, that is a very difficult thing for a company owner to do, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And, you didn't even go into this, but I'll even go into this because we recently had a guy come to us that's thinking about leaving a larger company than myself. And,
do you want to mention his name?
Nope.
Do you want to call him out right here?
No.
Should we recruit him? Should we get him on the phone? Andrew, we got a phone line we can open up?
No, we're not going to do that. I've sworn to not mentioning his name because he's still working for the company, and but it involved money. And here's what I will say as an owner: money goes both ways. Yes, owners have to make money at the end of the day.
I agree.
And I think sometimes owners, again, going back to what you said earlier about the loudness and everything, they dangle the carrots without looking at the full consequences of dangling that carrot. And so say they're going to give out 50% of profits without any holdbacks or whatever. Say they're going to pay 15% of the total deal instead of 8 or 10%. That I see common in roofing industries. Whatever that margin is that you're dangling out there, if you can't sustain it, why do you offer it in the first place? Because you're trying to lure the business, and then all you're going to do is have an ugly divorce at the 3 months, 6 months, or 2 years down the road, whatever it is. And chances are when that happens, that one that you get divorced with, he's either going to go to another company and bash y'all to no end, which is going to cause you some bad reviews, or he's going to go out and go right down the street or right across the street, figuratively, but within your territory, and start up his own company, which is going to slice the pie even more.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in Texas.
Yeah.
And
it happens.
I mean, those are the realities of life.
I mean, it happens in Texas, happens in Colorado, happens in Atlanta, happens in Florida, it happens in Minnesota, it happens in Missouri, it happens in Illinois. Like that happened, that story gets repeated over and over again.
It does.
The company baits the salespeople in with a certain margin, a certain incentive, and then it gets to October. Halloween's passed, and we're heading towards the last 2 months here of the quarter, and they're like, well, we need to change the commission structure.
Yeah.
Or there was some additional charges here.
Yeah.
Or or you're just fired, and then they go out and collect your commissions. I mean,
I've seen that.
I've seen it too. So
I've been in a company.
How are you serving your people when you do that to them?
You're not. And the problem becomes staying focused on the serving the others. It's easy to say you're humble, and it's easy to trust things when they're all good, but when when adversarial, or when rough times, or like we are in an unseasonably longer period of dry weather, we don't have any leaks. You don't have leaks when it's not raining. So people put it out of mind and out of sight. Oh, we'll deal with it when the next rain comes up. And so when you haven't had any rain or leaks, and I was talking to a supplier this week, and he's like, yeah, we're slow. He goes, are y'all using so-and-so? And I go, we hadn't had any jobs. And the reality is you get slow, and during these times when you get slow, it's really important to follow up. And we've had some issues with that, and I'm trying to minimize those issues. But you have issues that when it's dry, things get slow, like you said, and that's where the problems erupt, and that's when people get a little uneasy, a little uncomfortable. And here's the thing: salesmen don't really check out the companies as well as they should. Owners don't really check out the salesmen as well as they should. They just put them out there and go forward, and we all suffer from that. And the same thing that I would say as an owner, as I would have said as a salesman, is, pray about it. Pray about where you're wanting to go. Pray about, or use guidance, because you need to trust. You need to have a trust factor with the person you're going to work for if you're a salesman. And on the other side of that table, as an owner, you need to have a trust factor. We have a young man that is going out with me on a lead today that played baseball with my son, and I've watched this man, and he has a good discipline, and he has a strong structure, and I really want him on our team. I think he will be a good asset. I think he'll push Reese, and I think Reese will push him, and I think they could complement each other. But I have a trust factor with him, and I think he's going to be, as he develops, I think he's going to be a good person that will serve others, and I think he'll be good and follow what we want done at Tiger Roofing. And I think that's important. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that as owners. I know I have, because we're trying to keep up with this company, or we're trying to keep up with that company, or that company has 10 salesmen, so we think we should have 10 salesmen. And I had an offer the other day, not too long ago. I can bring 7 people on right now. And I was like, yeah, I don't want that. I don't want that, because I don't want to grow too fast, too quick. And, they may go elsewhere, and it'll be tough. And I'll think, man, maybe I should have took that. But, at the end of the day, you need to grow in a measured way, in my opinion. And, I think that kind of can segue into the other topic, which I love to talk about, high school football. And I think that's a good way to segue. Sedberry is the head coach at Terrell, and I think there were some questions out there about 2-3 years ago. Is this the right man? And I love Marvin Sedberry. I think he's doing a wonderful job at Terrell, and I think he's proven to go. He was just named the district. He's just named the 5A, 2A, Division 2. 5A Division 2 Coach of the Week last week. He was 9-0. He won last night to go undefeated for the season. And Marvin Sedberry is doing a great job and he's built a system and built a culture of discipline. I was telling a couple of people that I graduated from high school, and we had some good teams. And there was a good run in the mid-'90s. A kid I coached that went on to play at Arkansas, and I had very little to do with that. And he also went on to play 9 seasons in the NFL. A good friend and a great person, Kanoy Kennedy. And they had some really good teams, and they had a good run in the 90s. But I hope Coach Sedberry sees this, or I hope somebody will tell him. I've not seen the discipline, which I think comes in, and that's something that I think would be, if I'm truly honest, I think sometimes we struggle with, and I think everybody struggles with discipline at different times. It's tough to be disciplined 168 hours a week, which I like to talk about. it's tough to be disciplined of the full 7 days at 168 hours, but Sudbury has built a disciplined culture, and culture is a good word that people throw around, and culture is important in your business, and those players trust Sudbury, and Sudbury and his coaches trust those players, and they're 10-0. They rang up 79 points last night against a Mesquite Poteet team that maybe is not as strong and maybe is in a rebuilding phase. But Sudbury came in there. He started working on it as low as the junior high and built his program up. And there's talk and there is evidence that Terrell may be good for 3 years. We're going to find out how good they are if they continue to progress through the playoffs, because they're going to have to play South Oak Cliff in 3 weeks. And South Oak Cliff has won state either once or twice. I'm sure if he sees this, Brian Barnett will text me and give me the details on that. But South Oak Cliff is a team that is either won state or is playing in the state semifinals and state finals on a yearly basis in the last few years, and they're a very solid program. And so Terrell's going to have to meet them in the playoffs right around the weekend of Thanksgiving. And you know what they say, if you want to win it, you got to beat the best.
That's right.
And you got to beat the champs. And Terrell hasn't won state since 1957.
That's a long time.
Yes, that's almost 73 years or 70.
Right.
Maybe off. My math is kicking in.
Did you use Common Core math to figure that
No,
out?
I did not, and I don't want to bash Terrell. I'm very positive about Terrell, and I don't want the superintendent and all them to see, but I did go to Terrell, so that is back then, the 80s. Maybe it wasn't the math. That the guy that taught me math is now over in another town. But anyway, the Terrell. They won from 1950 to 1961 or 62. They were either in the regional playoffs or the state semifinals. And like I said, they won state twice, 1952 and 1957. And my cousin actually was on the 52 state team as a sophomore. Mm-hmm. He was a wingback, I believe is what they called him back then. And he was a great player, ended up in the Hall of Fame, but they were very good from that time. Had a lot of players that went on to play college football back then, and then they kind of had some tough years. They had a lot of good athletes come through, but just could never put it together. In the mid-'80s, we had a couple of good runs.
So, Rodney, what's different this year with the coach from Terrell?
I just like
why is the
way
team so
kids,
good?
They have a moxie, and they can beat you defensively. Last week against Crandall, the defense scored 3 touchdowns, and they've got an explosive running back that's a sophomore. Their quarterback's a junior. They can beat you a variety of ways. They can throw the deep pass. They can throw the short pass. They can run. The kid that I think his last name is Hambrick, just a good kid from everything I hear, good student, good player, and comes from a good family. I had either his uncle or cousin when I was there at Terrell in the early 90s, Parrish, and Parrish is a wonderful young man as well. And they just beat you, and they have just good, solid. Their defensive line is probably as good as I've seen in a long time at Terrell. And I know a lot of people have played. I know a lot of friends that may see this, but they're just really good athletes, and they're good all the way around.
It takes talent to win, doesn't it?
It does take talent to win, but Coach Sudbury and his staff has put together a good coaching staff as well.
Yeah, it's a team.
Yeah.
I want to go back to what you were saying previously, because I think it takes a team in order to be successful.
It does.
And the team consists, if we're talking about a roofing company owner, the team consists of the company owner, but it also consists of the people that company owner's hired to work in the office. And it also consists of the people that they have out in the field that are playing the game of getting contracts, negotiating deals.
Yeah.
The leader is only as good as the talent in the field. And the
right.
talent in the field can only sustain themselves based on the talent of the leader.
Mm-hmm.
So the leader gets the people they deserve, and the people that go work for the leader, they get the leader they deserve.
Yep.
And people say, well, we have a very good culture here.
Mm-hmm.
Our culture is great. We have a fantastic culture. And yet your culture is the same culture that hired those people that you're now claiming are weasels, liars, and thieves
Mm-hmm.
is the same culture that those people are leaving. So how good was the culture?
I don't know.
The culture wasn't any good.
Well, and so I'll just throw this in there. That's why I think NIL and transfers will be the ultimate demise of college athletics, because
That's a whole
and
new
I don't
topic.
really want to get into a lot of that, but I just think that if you don't cultivate and you don't build and foster together as a team, and I think what I was saying about Sudbury is he has done this. And
Are all of his talented players, are they all from Terrell? Or did they move there?
I think most of them came or grew up in the Terrell.
And that's why they haven't
If
won a
they did,
championship
they,
since
Terrell
'57.
is growing.
If
and
you
they
got to
may have
wait for the
had some-
talented players to grow up in your town,
Yeah,
because a lot of these,
they just didn't move it. Like
a lot of
I
these
don't
guys,
think-
South
yeah, I
Lake
don't-
Carroll, they move there.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna. I don't know
They
anything.
move there.
I won't comment on that. I'll leave that. I'll leave that out. I'll let you stand out there on that.
Are the talented players moving to Terrell because they want to play for coach?
No, but here's what I do think: being in education for 15 years,
Because the talented roofing salespeople are moving to the talented roofing company owners.
maybe.
Well, if I'm a talented roofing salesperson and I'm working for a loser roofing company owner who can't manage his money, can't pay his bills, and he's an alcoholic and he comes in drunk all the time and he's a womanizer and he's in the back smoking crack, I'm not going to stay there for very long.
No, I get that. Yeah, I would agree with that.
The talented players want to play for the talented coaches.
No, I think more so in the Terrell situation. I think they're growing. I think their kids are from Terrell, and I think they're doing what they need to do to develop a program. I think what you will see, though, and I would say this from my education background, is that Terrell will, if they continue to be successful and what it will do is draw people to the area. And I think you see that. And I don't know enough about South Lake Carroll. I do loosely know a person. Or
They
my
are a
wife
very good football team.
Well, yeah, they're very good. I do know a person that lives there that I was a fraternity brother with, but also my wife is real good friends with a lady whose daughter's husband coaches there. And I think, again, what I just said, if you are very successful, because people value sports in high school athletics or in high school, especially one-town schools, and South Lake Carroll falls into that category. Allen falls into that category.
Another
you're
great football
successful when you're successful in sports, whether it be football, basketball, or what. If you're successful in the band, if your band is really successful, and your kid is not in a program that breeds that, and you have the ability and the means to relocate, you're going to give yourself you're going to give your kid the chance to do that. And I don't disagree with that. I don't have any problem with that. With what I would, and yes, there is been allegations that some towns are enticing people to move in to that town. I don't know that, and it's not substantiated, and I won't comment on that.
Well, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But I am saying,
But I do
if a
think
dad knows
success
that his
breeds
kid's going to
more
be a
success.
blue chip recruit,
Yeah.
he wants to go play in a program
So-
where the coach is a blue chip coach.
Without calling out a town that's bad, let's say you got South Lake Carroll, which is perennial winners. You got a hotshot player, and you've got Johnsonville Town, USA, that goes 0-10 every year. But your quarterback has a chance to play Division I at a Division I school, and you got the chance to compete over here. Where would you not go?
Sure.
Where would you not go?
100%.
And that's the same thing that I'm saying about Terrell. The more successful they are, I've been told that their freshman team was undefeated, their JV was undefeated, so they have 2 to 3 years to do this on this run, possibly before they have to reload again. But again, I will say this: if you're successful and if you run a clean program And if you develop not only for them to be good players, but to be good human beings and to be good adults and to develop them as potential of adults. And I've been around Marvin Sudbury, and I think he does this. I think he does this. I don't know all of his assistant coaches, although I do know one, Dewanye Tucker. I think I said his first name right. He was a running back when I was back there at Terrell coaching golf, and he was just a great kid. He's a great kid that went on to play college football and now is back teaching and coaching at his alma mater, and he's doing a great job. And those type of people are coming back, and they're doing a wonderful job. And I just think it takes – that's where I think it is you got to trust, you got to have humility. And, you know, I've never really seen Sudbury really toot his horn. He's a great guy. He's a charismatic guy, and he teaches a system that I think was passed down from his father. And I can remember back in the 80s, we were 4A, we were 3A, Greenville was 4A, and his dad was a coach at Greenville, and Greenville had successful teams back in the early 80s and mid 80s. And Sudbury is doing the same thing at Terrell that his dad did at Greenville. And all I'm saying is I think it takes building a culture and people buying into it. And I think sometimes where I've struggled and where maybe my company has struggled is that maybe I have been all over the place and not as focused, and it's been hard to buy in things. And I think I will circle back to the roofing companies, like you said. If there's a struggle, I think you can point to not a 100% buy-in, either by the salesman or even by the owner. Like you said, the owner may be may put it on autopilot, and I don't think you can do that. I think you have to be involved in your companies. I think you can set up things, but one of the things that I've seen a lot of roofing owners do that get really, really big is they have people in place, and then they start doing trips and doing all these other things, and lo and behold, they look up and their company is suffering again. And it's because those people weren't really vetted, or even if those people were really vetted and they were at some point at one time, the owner he wasn't involved. He got uninvolved and got, or the right word, disengaged. And when you disengage, things can go awry pretty quick.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you don't have to be loud and obnoxious to be a great leader, to be a great football coach, to be a great roofing company owner. That's not a requirement. And sometimes it's even an impediment to building a great company. But what you have to be is you have to be great. If you want great salespeople to come work for you, you got to be a great leader. If you want great football players to transfer into your, not saying anybody is coercing them, but if you want great football players to move into your town, then you got to be a great coach. If you want greatness to be surrounded by you, you've got to be great. And if you're not great, well, you deserve the mediocrity that you're working with. You deserve the liars and the cheats that are lying and cheating to you. You deserve that. If you can't raise yourself to a level of greatness, don't expect for greatness to come to you. You've got to be great in order to attract great, to work with great. I'm getting myself worked up. But you don't have to be loud and obnoxious.
No. You can be quiet and unassuming.
That's right.
You can trust. And I think it all boils down to this. And I presented 2 or 3 examples today. 2, I don't know the spirituality of Ronald Reed, but I do know he trusted the process. I do know he had a discipline, and I do know he was obedient to that discipline. Joseph was strictly at 100% obedient to God. And I may have missed that at that Christmas Eve service, but Joseph was 100% obedient to God at everything he asked him to do. And that is huge. He had humility in his life, almost to a fault. And he was, when God said, I need you to go here, he went without it. Unlike Jonah. Jonah in the Old Testament is like, God, I don't want to go. I don't want to go to Nineveh. They're horrible people. I don't want to go there. Joseph went there. And then Sudbury has set the plan, and said, if you do this, guys, this is what will happen. And they are starting to see the fruits of that labor, not only at the varsity level, but at the junior varsity level and at the freshman level. And they're starting to see that, and they're going to see it most likely over the next 3 years. And they're going to get better and better. And then even when they rebuild, and this is a key point that I think I, as a company owner, and other company owners could take, and it's not loud. It's truly 100%. And it just hit me. If you get that implemented and you apply those tactics, when you do have to rebuild, you have a higher foundation than when you started. And at that foundation, let's say Sudbury has to rebuild in 3 years. Terrell might go 7-3, 3 or 4 years down the road. Probably not. And he'd tell me, Rodney, we're not going to go 7-3. I'm going to rebuild it to where we're 9-2 or 9-1. But even if he has to rebuild it, it's at a bigger foundation than where it was when he got there. And that is the key, is building that foundation up, because when you build that foundation up, your ceiling is much higher.
Man.
And that's the talk today.
That's a good way to close it right there, Rodney.
Thank you.
Build the foundation up. Doesn't have to be loud, doesn't have to be obnoxious, but you got to build it. You got to build it to be great. All right, this is Tiger Talks. Andrew's on the soundboard today. Andrew, thank you very much for doing a fantastic job. I saw the camera going back and forth. You got skills on the camera.
I got to work on the face still.
Rodney, thank you. Tiger Talks, episode 7's in the can.
Hey, go Tigers. And tonight I'm going to be in Canton and Sunnyvale. Canton and Sunnyvale are playing for the district championship in the 4A division. And I can't wait to be there at Canton with my buddy Clay Sanders, who is a Terrell Tiger as well, but moved to Canton. And Clay and I go way back. And I'll just say this. Clay never disliked a three-point shot. He always loved a three-point shot in the corner. And I love Clay when I'm saying that. I say that in all good humor. But he's great. He's a big supporter of the Canton Eagles. And it's a big game for Canton tonight. Sunnyvale is well-renowned. And it's an interesting fact that I'll do this. I took the thunder away from what we ended a while ago, so forgive me. But Sunnyvale used to be a K-8 school and would feed in. The reason Mesquite Poteet exists today, or part of the reason Mesquite Poteet exists today, is because once North Mesquite became too big, because that's where Sunnyvale first feeded into, Mesquite Poteet was created, and that became the feeder for Sunnyvale's K-8. And then Sunnyvale built their own high school, and they've had a very successful high school in football, basketball, and baseball. Shout out to Zach Gear, who's a great friend, former colleague of mine in Terrell back in the early 90s. And also we've done a roof for him and his wife, and he has an outstanding baseball program at Sunnyvale High School. So great people all around. And I've got Sunnyvale, I got a pull for Canton because my sister has raised her 4 children in Canton. The son, who is a coach at Rockwall High School, actually was the quarterback for Canton in the late 80s, so early 90s. So shout out so I'm pulling for, so let's go Eagles. Sorry, David and Paul. I know David's got 2 boys that play for Sunnyvale that are receivers, but so let's go Canton Eagles, all right? That's what I'll say.
All right. Hey, make it a great day. This is Tiger Talks with Rodney Lawson.
And Mike Coday.
See you guys.